back in the garage, back in the garage, back in the garage today, back in the garage today. What's up guys, back in the garage today, getting ready to install a KTM PowerParts fan on my 2017 KTM 250 XCF. So this is something I've been wanting to put on my bike for a while. I've actually had it for a couple of weeks, but I finally have a little bit of time this evening to get it on here. Let me show you what's inside the box and then we'll start to put this thing on the bike. All right, so inside the box here, this doesn't actually come with it. This is a supplementary wiring harness. I'll zoom in there so you can see the part number on it. Just makes the install a little bit easier. We have the fan unit itself. We get the mounting bolts and the liquid you put on to attach the sensor to the radiator. And then we also have instructions and information. Now in order to put this on, we need to have access to the right side of the radiator over here because this is where it's going to mount. So I need to remove the seat and the tank with the tank shrouds. I've done a video on that I'll link up here in the corner if you don't know how to do that. But we'll just time lapse this real quick and then come back to a stripped down bike. Alright, now we can get where we need to get to. One last thing we need to do is remove the radiator cover here, which is done by taking out these two 8mm screws. Now you could do this job by taking the radiator off, but then you have to drain all your coolant out, and since I just put fresh coolant in, like, I don't know, it's been in there maybe like an hour and a half of ride time. What I've done, if you take the radiator cover off there, see how you can pivot this thing around? We're gonna have to access this backside, but I should be able to get in there with the screwdriver to fix this fan. So this is what the fan unit looks like. Obviously, it's going to go over top of the radiator right here. You've got a digital readout. You can tell it's 54 degrees in my garage right now. So this right here is the sensor. I'll show you what that does here in just a moment. But the first thing we need to do is get this bolted onto the radiator. All right, so using the screws provided, you need a Torx 20 bit in order to get this thing on here. And we're just gonna line it up with the holes here in the side of the radiator. Now I'm not tightening anything up yet because I need to get over here on the other side and get these started, and then we'll come back over and finish these up.
A few moments later.
So after messing around with this thing for about 5 minutes, I've decided it's just going to be easier to take this off. So we need to drain the coolant. You can see I've got my funnel down here. We're going to take out this bolt right here. Be careful, there is a crush washer on the back of it. We're going to let the coolant drain out. Obviously we'll pop the cap.
I'll pop a cap in your ass
up here. So we got some pressure to push it out, and then once we get all the coolant out, then we'll take off the right side of the radiator. You can see I got the coolant drained out. I went ahead and put the drain plug and a fresh copper crush washer back on. Now we're going to come up here. We've got to pull off this hose clamp, which you can use a Phillips or I believe that's a 6mm, and then we've got the other hose clamp down here, and then this whole thing will pop off the bike. Oh yeah, I forgot. We also have one more hose clamp down here on the bottom of the radiator. Also a 6mm. But now that we've got this so loosened up, I don't think we really need to I've already loosened these, but I don't think I'm even gonna pop them out because now I can get over here to this side to get those screws in. All right, so we've got the bracket mounted. We've got all 4 screws in, the 2 on this side and the 2 on the inside. And we do have one more thing we need to take care of on the unit itself before we take care of wiring it up. But before we do that, I'm gonna go ahead and hook back up the coolant lines and get everything back to the way it was. All right, so I've got the radiator reattached. I haven't put any coolant or the cap on it yet. Next thing we need to do is affix the thermal sensor. Now, they do provide this paste that you're supposed to coat it with. Instead of using that paste, I'm actually gonna use my trusty old Honda Bond. We're gonna totally coat this, and then what we're gonna do is pick out a fin we wanna put it in at and insert it in one of the radiator fins. I'm gonna do mine kind of up here in the upper right-hand corner. You can put it wherever you want, but at least I was talking to John Ross and he said, you know, if you put it down here somewhere, they tend to run a little bit more. So I'm going to put mine up here and we'll see how it goes. You can see I've got the entire sensor coated, and I'm going to need 2 hands, but we're going to get this inserted. And there it is inserted. Now I'm going to put just a little bit of Honda Bond over what's exposed right here. Don't think you're necessarily just going to be able to push this in. I took a little tiny hammer to just tap it in there, but don't use anything too big. All right, so next we're gonna grab our wiring harness. Now I'm gonna get some dielectric grease to put on this before I insert this in here, but it's gonna plug into here, and then we're gonna run it back to the battery. Okay, now that I have everything hooked up, let me show you the way I did it. So obviously this is your main wire. This is where you're connecting into your harness. These are my throttle cables running down through here. So I just undid this strap right here and tucked this in along with the throttle cables. Back here, I put a zip tie around the harness. Also put another small zip tie here. I ran it on the inside of the frame. And then I came up through here. And then I just popped the ECU off and just ran the wire underneath there. The ECU should be fine the way it is. And then this is obviously your inline fuse. And then back here, really all you're doing is hooking up your ground and your positive. You can see I've got that both connections done there. Used a little dielectric grease. So for all intents and purposes, everything is now hooked up for the fan. So I'm gonna go ahead and fill my bike back up with coolant and then get the tank and the seat and everything back on, and then we'll test this thing out. All right, so we got the bike back together. Obviously, I didn't put the seat back on, but that's because this thing is gonna go on the battery tender later because the battery's starting to get a little low on it. Let's get to setting the thermostat and then fire it up. All right, so I'm gonna leave mine set on Fahrenheit since I'm in the US. The way we change this is press and hold. And I'm gonna stay with Fahrenheit. So we'll just let it flash there for a few moments, and then it's supposed to kick over so we can adjust the temperature where we want it to kick on. I do not want 150. I think we're going to set it at about 185. We'll do 187. So when the temperature of the coolant, temperature of the radiator, temperature of the bike, whatever you want to say, gets up to 187 degrees, that's when this thing is supposed to kick on, start blowing some air, and cool this bike back down. So I kicked the bike off, and you can hear the fan there for just a split second over top of my heater in the background, but there it goes. All right, so one last thing, and this is a John Ross up at Ride on Moto pro tip here. You know we used Honda Bond up here instead of the stuff in the kit. The last thing you want to do is take Honda Bond on the back edge of the connectors, so where all the wires are, because the metal connectors are exposed back here. And also down here, and then over on this plug too. And the reason why we want to just gum that crap up, and it'll finish setting up here in a couple of hours or whatever, is because we don't want dirt and mud and crap getting in there, and then we've got a bad connection, and then this fan won't work. So take the little bit of extra time it takes to go ahead and set up your connectors with that Honda Bond, and this thing should last you a very long time. All right, guys, so the fan install was a success. I'll get to test it out this weekend because, or at least from when I'm filming this, we're headed down to South Carolina to race the first round of the AMA East Hare Scramble Series. So hopefully I'm going fast enough that the bike doesn't get that hot, but who knows. So anyway, I'll let you know how it does long term. So if you're watching this video, 6-8 months from now, be sure to ask down in the comment section if you're wondering how it's still working, if I still like it, if I've changed the settings, what have you. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. If you did, please give it a big thumbs up. If you're not a subscriber, consider hitting that subscribe button, because if you like motorcycles, well, this is the place to be. Again, if you have any questions about this fan install, what I think of it, whatever, is relatively simple install, let me know those down in the comment section below, and I'll do my best to answer them. And as always, I'll talk to you again soon.